Welcome to Canyon Creek Project, and before anything else, moms, thank you for holding us in your arms. Thank you for being there in the fun times. Thank you for being there in the hard times. You are awesome. You rock. And so I gotta say that the most important word for us towards you is mommy. Yes, mommy. It's a loaded word. You know that. You know that very well. So on behalf of Canyon Creek Project, happy Mother's Day. Let's have a word of prayer. Father, thank you that we can come this day and just worship together with you. Bless us, bless our mothers. In your name, amen. Let us sing.
Good morning, Canyon Creek. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Let's just worship.
I was very beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of woke up to see the light. But in the cross that saved my soul, all else is lost. The grip of fear has no hold on me. So where, oh death, where is your sting? No longer I do live. Now Jesus lives in me. For I was dead in sin. Now I woke up to see the light. I see the light. I see the light. Sing with me, oh. All of this for your glory, Jesus. Oh, all of this for your glory. Oh, all of this for your glory. Oh, all of this for your glory. See, oh. All of this for your glory, Jesus, Jesus. All of this for your glory. One more time. All of this for your glory. All of this for your glory. No longer I who live. Now Jesus lives in me. For I was dead in sin. Now I woke up to see the light.
1, 2, 3, yeah!
I see the light. Sing on. Oh, all of this for your glory. All of this for your glory. Oh, all of this for your glory. Oh, all of this for your glory. What the ha?
We're just gonna keep going. Let's go.
Oh man, so fun.
Children, now is the time for you.
This is the time.
Yes. Our first song is drumroll please. I don't know what it's called. What is it called?
Give me oil in
I
my lamp.
I just forgot. That is it. Okay.
Cool, 1, 2,
Let's
3.
go.
Me oil in my lamp, keep me burning. Give me oil in my lamp, I pray. Give me oil in my lamp, keep me burning. Keep me burning till the break of day. Alright, you know this, sing Hosanna. Sing Hosanna, sing Hosanna, sing Hosanna to the King of Kings. Sing Hosanna, sing Hosanna, sing a kid again. I am sweating.
He said, "Woo, woo."
Oh. Oh.
Ian really liked that one.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Very fun. Thank you, Rule.
All right, our next song is "Lord, I Lift Your Name on High." All right, at first we're gonna go a little slow so we can get it. Then we'll speed it up.
And then we'll bring it back up.
Yeah, and then we'll come back again. Let's sing "Lord, I Lift." Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us.
Sing the
You came from heaven to earth to show the way from the earth to the cross. My debt to pay from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high. I thought you could get faster. Lord, I lift your name on high.
Lord, I love to sing your praises.
I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way from the earth to the cross. My debt to pay from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high. Let's slow it down a bit. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way from the earth to the cross. My debt to pay from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high. Yes,
Hope you guys enjoyed that. Yeah.
we sure did.
Hope you were singing. Yeah. Watching you. Not really.
I'm lightheaded. I am lightheaded. All right, as we come to this time of worship, let's posture ourselves so that we can receive what God has for us and what we may have for y'all, I guess. I feel like I didn't say that right, but
Well, technically we've been worshiping the whole time, right?
yes.
But
As we come to a more...
kind of a slower time of worship.
Yes.
But, this song was new to me. Why did you pick it?
Well, we've done it before. multiple
Well, it's new to
times.
me.
It's new to you.
Yes.
But as I explained, kind of the first time that we did this song, I picked it mostly because as a musician myself, specifically, I don't really know the words or can generate the words in order to thank God or really express how I feel towards, living and towards God right now. Or in general sometimes. So sometimes I just sing. I sing hallelujah. I sing in general because sometimes the best words to say for me is to sing them. Because for me, that's just how they come out. And I know that some people it's the same. So let's go ahead and sing it.
Sing it with us. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We had a lot of fun. We hope you did too. We hope you have a wonderful week and that you enjoy this really, really amazing Sabbath. So,
Also,
yeah.
Happy Mother's Day.
Oh!
Happy Mother's Day.
I'm sorry, Mom.
Come on, guys.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
This one's for you.
I made
Well,
it.
this one's for you. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, we'll see you guys next Saturday.
We had a great time with that praise and worship. It was a lot of fun singing on the top of our lungs. That was a lot of fun. We want you to be in the know of Canyon Creek Project, and we continue with our series in defense of Snidely Whiplash, lessons we can learn from our enemies. Mike Tucker is going to be leading that, and he'll be up in a few seconds. By the way, we paused this week because we're celebrating and accentuating our teachers. I read in an article that it took a pandemic for us to acknowledge the value and the meaning that teachers have in our lives. And I have watched countless videos of parents going crazy. Thank you, teachers, for all you do. Thank you for being patient with our children and being patient with us parents as well. So big shout out to you guys. Thank you. I want you to be aware that today, Canyon Creek Project has a Canyon Creek Project huddle. And it starts at 12:05, and the link, you'll find it right there in our Facebook Live. Also in our YouTube channel, you'll find it right there. So join us, and join us with a piece of paper and a marker, because we want to do a project that we want to post on our Facebook, which we hope you're following us. And YouTube, we hope you're following on our YouTube. And also Instagram, we hope you're following us on our Instagram as well. And so join us in our Canyon Creek Project huddle, so we can have some fun together, play some games, say hello, and say something very awesome to our moms. By the way, if you want to be in the know, always subscribe to our newsletter at canyoncreekproject.com. And so now I take the time to just pause and say, 2020 graduates, you rock.
What's up, Canyon Creek family? My name is Trent Bartholomew, and I attend North Dallas Adventist Academy. I want to start off by thanking a couple special people in my life. First and foremost, my parents. You guys have been there through everything, and I definitely would not be in the position I am without you guys. I also want to thank my friends and my teachers. You guys have encouraged me through every step of the way. Next year, I'll be attending Baylor University, studying finance and economics and minoring in Spanish.
My name is Ava Clark, and I will be graduating from Plano East Senior High School. I would like to thank my parents for all of their love, constant encouragement, and for being my best friends. There's so much more I could thank you for, but not enough time in this video. I love you so much, and I couldn't do it without you. I want to thank my extended family for all their love, support, and laughs. I want to thank the Canyon Creek Project community for providing an amazing and welcoming worship experience. And most importantly, I want to thank God for all of the opportunities and blessings that He has provided for me. I will be attending Texas A&M University in the fall, where I will be studying biomedical sciences on the pre-med track.
That was awesome. Thank you, Trent. Thank you, Ava. Thank you, Faith. Thank you, Jing Wen. Thank you, Logan. Now, our presenter, Mike Tucker, in defense of Snidely Whiplash.
Hello and welcome once again to Canyon Creek Project. We're so glad that you've joined us. Again, a big thank you and congratulations to all of our graduates. We love you. These are unprecedented times. We're so sorry that we can't have the live event that you deserve, but we want you to know that we love you and we are very, very proud of you and your accomplishments. And again, we're praying for all of our first responders. We pray that you'll keep safe. Thank you for your sacrifice. At the end of our sermon today, we've got a special tribute to moms, so stay tuned for that, and right after that, then I'll come back with a final word. Now, we've started a new sermon series entitled In Defense of Snidely Whiplash. This is what we can learn from our enemies. And already we've learned that it is our job as Christians to love as God loves, and that means even loving our enemies. We've also learned that there's absolutely, positively no place for hatred in our lives, because hatred absolutely consumes us. It envelops us. I found an illustration of that just recently. We've all seen this in the news about the young man in Georgia who was jogging, a black man, 25, 26 years old, Ahmad, I think his name is, and two white men who were so filled with hatred just were sure that this man was an evil man, chased him down and killed him. The man was innocent. And yet their hatred for what they deemed to be their enemy was so all-consuming that it caused them to do something that was absolutely unspeakable. Absolutely unspeakable. And so, again, when we are obsessed with our enemy, it changes us. I think that this is true for all of us on another level. I remember years ago I was starting a new ministry project, and I had a group of people that were working with me, a team of people. And as we started, it was tough getting started with this ministry project. You know, you've got all sorts of issues going on. But then we discovered by word of mouth and by happenstance that another individual who was ministry related was actively working against us, verbally trashing us, verbally working, trying to do things that would impede our progress and stop us. We were flabbergasted at this. We couldn't understand it. I talked to him. He just denied everything. He said great things to my face, but behind my back, I knew he was trashing me, my team, our ministry effort. It was obvious. It was true. My team began to obsess over this. What can we do to stop him? You know what he's going to do next is what I hear. And then they would make plans. They would try to do things to stop him. It went on and on. This happened for some time. We were just taken in by this enemy, wondering why he was so passive-aggressively working to stop us. We were obsessed with thoughts of how can we counteract what he's doing. And finally, it dawned on me that we were doing things as a team that were just wrong. We were engaging in activities that were aimed at stopping this man rather than focusing on ministry. Our obsession with our enemy had made us become like him. So I called my team together. I said, we have got to stop this. Look at what we've done. Look at what we're doing. This is absolutely wrong. So here's the law. From this day forward, we will never again mention the name of our enemy. We don't care what he's doing. We don't care what he's going to do, what he's planning to do. We're going to let him do his thing. From this day forward, we focus on mission. We focus on our ministry. What can we do to fulfill the calling that God has given to us? I don't want to hear one more word about this enemy. As far as we're concerned, he does not exist. Only one thing exists for us, and that is our passion for our ministry. And so we did that. We took that as the day we started just focusing entirely on our ministry. And you know what happened? The ministry began to flourish. It grew. It blossomed. And it didn't matter then what our enemy was doing to hurt us or to counteract us. It didn't matter, because God's power was seen. And God's power was taking this ministry to new heights, new levels. When we finally ignored the enemy, the more we looked at the enemy, the more we became like him. That is a real danger, that we will become so obsessed with our enemy that we'll do things we never dared dream we would ever do. We become a person we never wanted to be. We become like our enemy. I find an example of this happening in the life of Abraham. You remember Abraham, who was called to be the father of a great nation. God called him out of Ur and brought him to a land he had never seen before, a land in which God told him, I will give to you and to your descendants. And Abraham began to live there, wondering how on earth he would be the father of a great nation, since he was advancing in years and had no heir, no son. How would this happen? And then a famine hit the land, this land of promise. And so he decided to take his family and all of his people, his flocks, his herds, everything down into Egypt in order to wait out the famine. But on the way down, he began to think about things as they were. And he realized, my wife is beautiful. And although I've got all these flocks, I'm going to attract a lot of attention, but I have no ability to stop the Egyptian army. And if they should see this beautiful woman that I'm married to, Pharaoh's going to want to take her. And so he came up with a plan. He asked his wife to say that she was his sister in order to protect him. Let's read about this in Scripture. We find this in Genesis, the 12th chapter, starting with verse 10. Now there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to live there for a while, because the famine was severe. As he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife. Then they will kill me, but they will let you live. Say you are my sister, so that I will be treated well for your sake, and my life will be spared because of you. Now, that's an interesting little plan. But the truth is that Abraham was filled with fear. The more he looked at his potential enemy, at Pharaoh, the more his heart began to quake with fear, and the more he began to think, I've got to do something to protect myself, or this will be the end of me. She's beautiful. I've married up significantly, and others are going to want her. I've got to do something to save myself, to make sure that everything's okay. And so he plotted how he himself would deliver himself from this potential threat. Nothing's happened so far. Nothing. And so he decided, this is the plot. I will have her say that she is my sister. And that way, if indeed they try to take her, they won't kill me. They'll take her. And yet, what a terrible thing to do. What a terrible risk to place your wife at. But this is what he did. Now, as it turns out, his fears were well-founded. This is a beautiful woman, and she was noticed. And the story continues in verse 14. When Abram came to Egypt, the Egyptians saw that she was a very beautiful woman. So, all right, it's true. She was beautiful. Verse 15, and when Pharaoh's officials saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh, and she was taken into his palace. He treated Abram well for her sake, and Abram acquired sheep and cattle, male and female donkeys, men servants and maid servants and camels. So, again, his fears were well-founded. Pharaoh said, I like her. I want her. And so they took her, leaving Abram along. They treated Abram well. And he began to grow and prosper and get richer in a land that was not affected by the famine. But at what price? His wife had been taken away from him. You know, you think about Abram and you realize this man is as dumb as Dudley Do-Right. He's stumbling, bumbling. He can't get out of his own way. He's got an enemy now, and he thought he had taken care of this, but his solution is worse than any potential problem. He didn't trust God to get him out of this. He did a dumb thing. By the way, as you read this and you read the story, this is repeated. His son does the same thing. This is a generation of generational stupidity, it seems. That's what we do when we obsess about our enemies. We end up doing the dumbest things. We're so obsessed with this and what might happen, what could happen, what's about to happen, what's happening to us, that we devise plans that make us do things we never dreamed we would do. I can't tell you how many times counseling, a woman or a man have come to me talking about their spouse and the divorce they're going through, or the relationship they've had, and they say, you know what I did because of what he did to me, and then they tell me something they've done. I think, my word, I can't believe you did this. Well, he deserved it. Well, yeah, but now think about this. You have now become a person who would do, and then I named the thing they did. That's who you are. In your wildest dreams before all this happened, did you ever envision that you would be that person? That you would be the person who would do this thing? Your obsession with this new enemy of yours, who was your lover, your spouse, has caused you to become a different person. A person you never dared dream you could possibly become. All because of your enemy. You've obsessed over them. You've tried to fix it yourself. And now you've become a person you never dared dream you could be. A person you would not want to be. A person who is totally unattractive to you. That's the person you've become because that's what you have done. And as I share this with them, it takes a while for the recognition to hit as to who they have become, what they've done, and how it has changed them. This is what Abram went through. And it's amazing to me that God got him out of this without any damage, with no damage to Sarah, no damage to himself. But it's not because of Abraham. He's a Dudley Do-Right. He's about as clueless as you get. This father of the great nation, the one that the Jews pointed to as being the one who had so much righteousness that if they fell short, they could just borrow from Father Abraham and they'd have more than enough for themselves. Are you kidding me? Seriously, this guy's nuts. He's clueless. He's done something incredibly stupid. But God delivers him anyway. Look at the story. Chapter 12, verse 17, but the Lord inflicted serious diseases on Pharaoh and his household because of Abram's wife, Sarai. So Abraham summoned Abram. What have you done to me? He said. Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she is my sister so that I took her to be my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go. Then Pharaoh gave orders about Abram to his men, and they sent him on his way with his wife and everything he had. All right, so God said, no, this cannot be. She's to be the mother of a great nation. You're to be the father of a great nation. I'm working with idiots here. You know, I've got to intervene now to protect you from yourself because what you've done is incredibly dumb. And so God intervenes, and once again, Abraham has defeated his enemy. But not because of what Abraham did. He's stumbling, he's bumbling, he does incredibly stupid things. And yet God intervenes on his behalf and Abraham wins. Not because of his plan. In spite of his plan, he wins. Because when Abraham obsessed about his potential enemy, it made him someone different. It made him someone he never dared dream he could become. It changed him. It changed his thinking. It changed his mind. It caused him to do things he would never do under any ordinary circumstances. As I'm preaching this, I remember times in my own life when this has happened to me, when I was so obsessed over an enemy that it changed me. It changed my thought processes. It robbed me of my joy, my vitality, my energy, and it caused me to behave in ways I never dreamed possible. Maybe you've done the same thing, or at least been tempted to do the same thing. An enemy so great that it was robbing you of your joy, your vitality, your energy. It robbed you of your purpose for living, and it caused you to do things you never would have done otherwise. If so, it's time for you and for me to learn the same lesson that Abraham had to learn, and that is, if you obsess over your enemy, you become like your enemy. It changes you, because by beholding, we become changed into the same image. Instead, we need to refocus our attention away from the enemy to the solution, which is to God. And the more you focus on the solution, the one who has the power to change things for you, the more you become like him, and the less you become like your enemy. Abraham learned some lessons from this. We fast forward a few years, and Abraham has invited his nephew, Lot, to sojourn with him. Lot has come, and Lot now becomes wealthy. He's growing. His cattle, his flocks are growing as they live together, but eventually there's too much right in this location. Both of them have grown to the point where now their herdsmen are warring with each other, and there's not enough grass for them all. And so Abraham comes to Lot, his nephew, and said, listen, here's the land before you. We're too big. We can't stay here together. We need to separate, but you choose where to go. Now, when Abraham did this, he understood something, and Lot understood something. As the elder senior citizen, Abraham was making a magnanimous gesture, but the culture stated that the younger man, the nephew, would say, oh no, far be it from me to choose. You are the one who's responsible for my prosperity. You are the senior. You need to choose. I will never choose. You choose which part of the world you should go to, which part of the land you will take, and I will take that which is left. That's what Lot should have done. But Lot here makes a decision which makes him, basically he's declared himself to be Abraham's enemy, because he's going to take advantage of his uncle. Instead, he says, all right, I'll choose, which was wrong. The culture demanded that he not choose, that he not accept his uncle's gracious invitation, but instead that he say, no, my lord, you choose. He didn't do that. And not only did he choose, but he chose the best spot for himself. It was a spot closer to Sodom and Gomorrah. It was richer. It was beautiful. It was the best spot. He said, my lord, because you've said so, I'll choose, and this is where I'll go. Now, he did that knowing that his uncle was too gracious to retaliate. His uncle, although he was insulting him, his uncle was too gracious and too godly a man to retaliate or to pay him back. He's declaring, I'll take advantage of you, therefore I'm your enemy. But his uncle would not retaliate. He knew he could win. Abraham could have been obsessed by this. He could have been offended by this. He could have said, how dare you? How dare you? You've just declared that I am nothing to you. You've declared that I am your enemy. You've taken advantage of me. But Abraham did not do this. And so Lot separated. And then something happened. After all this, kings banded together and raided the land where Lot was and did terrible things. All of his possessions, everything was gone. Let's read about this. Chapter 14. The four, and I got a typo there, I just noticed. The four kinds is supposed to be the four kings. Kinds is spelled correctly, but kings is spelled incorrectly. The four kings seized all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their food. Then they went away. They also carried off Abram's nephew Lot and his possessions, since he was living in Sodom. So he had chosen this choice land, but bit by bit he began to move into Sodom, and he lived there in the comforts of the city, while all of his herds were out and his hired men were taking care of them. But these four kings came in and carried off Lot and his wife and his children. He carried off all his possessions, as well as all the possessions of the people of the city of Sodom. And now when this happened, Abraham could have said and would have been justified in saying, Lot, you chose. You insulted me. You declared yourself to be at odds with me. You took the choicest land. You took advantage of me. You got what you deserved. And he would have been justified in doing so, saying, I'm not going to intervene. After all, we got 4 kings over here. What am I against them? But Abraham had learned some lessons. He had not obsessed over Lot, his enemy. He allowed his love for Lot to transcend everything else. He loved Lot, in spite of what Lot had done to him. He did not obsess over his enemies. Instead, he held love in his heart. And Abraham decided that he would rescue his nephew. Verse 14, when Abram learned that his relative had been taken captive, he called out the 318 trained men born in his household and went in pursuit as far as Dan. So these were men, servants, who had been born into his household while their fathers were in the service of Abram. They'd been with the family since birth, but he had had them trained as warriors so that these men could defend Abraham and his possessions and his family. Now he enlists the services of these men. And Abraham, even though he's aging, goes with them and pursues the enemy of his nephew, also his enemy. At least his nephews declared him to be so, as far as Dan. During the night, Abram divided his men into to attack them, and he routed them, pursuing them as far as Hobah, north of Damascus. He recovered all the goods and brought back his relative Lot and his possessions, together with the women and the other people. So Abram says, all right, you've done a terrible thing to me, but I've chosen to love you anyway. You've declared yourself openly to be my enemy, to take advantage of me, but I've chosen to love you anyway. I'm going to keep my focus on God and my focus on mission and my purpose for living. I don't want to be the kind of man who lives with resentment. I don't want to be the kind of man that changes me to be. Instead, I'm going to be a kind of man that is after God's own heart. I've learned my lesson from the whole Egyptian experience. Hopefully now I can be a better man, a man who loves his enemies. And I'm going to deliver you. So he takes his valiant men, he pursues Lot, he defeats these 4 kings, he rescues these men. Now, the law of the land at that time was if you go and you rescue these people and you defeat their enemies, all the possessions that the enemies had taken are now yours. You deliver the people back. They can live free now, but these are the spoils of war. But Abraham made a different decision here. We find this in verse 21. The king of Sodom said to Abram, give me the people and keep the goods for yourself. Basically, he was declaring to him, do that which I know is right. You've delivered them. The spoils of war are yours. You deserve them. You put yourself at risk. You defeated the enemies. So you keep that, but give me the people. Let them come back. Let them start over again. They'll have nothing, but let them start once again. Let them live in peace with me. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have raised my hand to the Lord God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and have taken an oath that I will accept nothing belonging to you, not even a thread or the thong of a sandal, so that you will never be able to say, I made Abram rich. I will accept nothing but what my men have eaten, and the share that belongs to the men who went with me, so the men can have their share. They deserve that. They put their lives at risk. To Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, let them have their share. So I said, let these men have their share, the men that have gone with me, but I will not take anything from you. I'm going to be far more magnanimous than you've dreamed possible. I'm not going to take Lot's possessions, although I have every right to take them. I'm not going to do that. He was my enemy, but I've delivered him, and I'm going to restore to him all that was his. Abram learned a lesson. He took all the fear of an enemy that was in his heart, and he turned it to something positive. He decided, instead of being fearful, that he would do something positive with his energies. I'm going to give this back. I'm not going to let you say that I've made myself rich. You see, focusing on our enemy changes us. It changes us into someone who resembles our enemy. And Abraham has learned this lesson. I don't want to become like the thing that I hate. I don't want to become like my enemies. I don't want to become like the Pharaoh of Egypt. I don't want to become like Lot. I want to be a man after God's own heart. And if I obsess over my enemies, it will change me. The same thing is true for you. If you continue to obsess over your enemies, over those people at work that are out to get you, over the people perhaps in your own household who are out to get you, if you obsess over anyone in your life, your neighborhood, your family, who seems to be at odds with you, you will become like someone you never dared dream possible you could become. You're going to be a man or woman you never thought you could be. And that's not for you. You need to be a man, a woman after God's own heart. So turn your attention to the one who will make you different. Have no place for hatred in your heart. Have no place for revenge in your heart. Choose to love your enemies. That doesn't mean that you make yourself a doormat. No, respect yourself and set boundaries. But turn your eyes to the one, the God who made you, the God who can deliver you, and make yourself like him. Paul Cho was the pastor of the largest Christian congregation on the planet, which was in Korea. He had a heart for God and had a powerful ministry. He loved God with all of his heart. But he had a place of hatred in his heart. And that was for the Japanese, because of what they had done to him and his family during the war, World War II. The atrocities they had perpetrated against him and his family were just unspeakable, unbelievable. And so he told God, God, I'll go any place you want me to do. I'll do anything you want me to do except for one thing. Don't send me to Japan. I cannot minister to those people. I cannot, because of what they've done to me. I hate them. And as you might guess, when you make that declaration, as the years passed, eventually an invitation came to him to go to Japan and to speak to 1,000 pastors who wanted to learn from him. And the way the invitation came, it was obvious that this was an invitation direct from the hand of God, direct from his hand. He couldn't turn it down. He went with fear and trembling. He prayed. He labored with this. He labored. And when it was time for him to speak, he stood up in front of 1,000 pastors from Japan. And when he opened his mouth to speak, instead of saying the words that he had planned, it came out, I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. And then he broke down and wept right in front of those pastors. They knew his story. They knew what had happened. And a huge silence fell over the congregation for what seemed to be an eternity. And finally, one Japanese pastor stood up and walked forward and confessed his guilt and the guilt of his people for what they had done against Paul and his family during the war. And he said, please forgive us. I beg your forgiveness. And he wept. And then another pastor came forward, and another, until the entire congregation came forward and said, please forgive us. And then Paul's heart was changed. His tears of anger became tears of remorse and repentance, and he repented of his anger and his hatred of this people. And a new spirit encompassed this whole congregation. And Paul was then finally able to preach and to minister to his former enemies. He ministered to them with a heart of love. You see, the more he focused on his hatred, the more it changed him into a man he never dreamed he could be. But when he repented of that sin, when he saw the spirit of these people, it changed him. And it made him a better man. It made him the man God intended him to be. You've got enemies. I've got them. And it may be someone is just as simple as they just irritate you. And the more you think about that, and the more you focus on that, the more it will change you. Don't focus on your enemy. Focus on the one who can make you a better man, a better woman. Focus on God and let his heart, his love, change you. He'll do it. He's promised. Before we end our time together, we're going to play right now a tribute to you, our moms. We love you. We adore you. We wish we could be there in person to embrace you, to give you a gift, to do something more for you. But this is what we have. We love you. So please enjoy this tribute right now. And I'll be back in a minute.
Happy Mother's Day! Hey Mom, happy Mother's Day. I know I can't be with you in Toronto. Love you, miss you, and hope you have a wonderful day.
And happy Mother's Day to my mother, Arlene, who's right here in Grand Prairie, 130 steps from my front door, but with isolation, I haven't seen you that much. Happy Mother's Day. And to all of our mothers,
We wish you a happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. You're loved and appreciated, and your hard work is noticed.
Have a wonderful, happy Mother's Day. Big hugs.
To mothers everywhere, happy Mother's Day!
Happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there.
Happy Mother's Day!
Happy Mother's Day! You're amazing!
Happy Mother's Day!
Happy Mother's Day!
Happy Mother's Day! Happy Mother's Day!
Happy Mother's Day!
Happy Mother's Day! I love you!